Welcome in to Greenville Grit, Greenville residents in touch on 103.7 WTIB. This is the local show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Ribeyes, Kid Construction, and Greenville Toyota. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Hello and welcome to Greenville Grit. I am Terry Williams, here today with two wonderful guests from Crime Stoppers. We're going to get into a great discussion about different events that are coming up and exactly what Crime Stoppers does. We have Mark Jones with us today and Scott Mullis, and we welcome you so much. Before we get into our discussion, though, we do want to thank our sponsors that have been with us for so long. We thank Greenville Toyota. They're located across from Fresh Market on Memorial Drive. You can reach them at 321-3000 or at greenvilletoyota.com. We also thank Ribeyes Steakhouse. They're really, really good. And they have a great salad bar, wonderful steaks, pork chops. They have a room you can have your parties or dinners in. They're located at the corner of Fire Tower and Arlington. And they also have a location in Williamston. And we thank them for sponsoring us as well. And we also are sponsored by the Overton Group and Overton Residential Properties. For all your residential needs, commercial needs, property management, you can call us at 375-8620 or visit us at overtonresidential.com. We're going to take a short first break and come back and discuss all things going on with Crime Stoppers. Welcome back. We are very happy to have with us today two of our board members from the Pitt Greenville Crime Stoppers, our chairman, Mark Jones, and our vice chairman, Scott Mullis. And just let you all tell us just a little bit about yourselves, what you do in your regular life, and then a little bit about what you do on Crime Stoppers board.
All right. Well, I guess I'll start.
Okay.
I've been on the criminal justice faculty at ECU since 1993, since the first stone was turned, I suppose. So I've been a professor there for quite a while, and I've been involved with Crime Stoppers since, I think, 2011 was my first year. Last year, calendar year 2015, I served as vice chair, and this year is my first year as chair. So That's me in a nutshell, so I'll turn it over to our very fine vice chair, Scott Mullis.
Thank you, Mark. Work at Greenville Utilities, Assistant Director of Customer Relations. I've been there 20 years. I know what you're thinking. You're saying you're not that old, but really I am. And been involved in Crime Stoppers a couple of years and just hit the ground running and really enjoy the time there.
That's great. Well, tell us a little bit about just the basics of what Crime Stoppers is all about, what your mission is, and then you might go into a little bit about how it really got started.
Well, I look at it this way, that the mission of Crime Stoppers is to help keep our community safe.
Right.
And the mission of law enforcement is to help keep our community safe. Sometimes law enforcement needs some help from the public in doing that, and sometimes that requires money to pay for information. So our basic mission is public safety, and if that amounts to having to put somebody in jail to ensure that public safety, that's what Crime Stoppers helps do. Our coordinator is Kip Gaskins, a lieutenant with the Pitt County Sheriff's Office.
A lot of people are familiar with Kip.
Oh, yes, and does a very fine job, has been doing this job for about 15 years. And so I want to make sure I give a shout out to Kip Gaskins for all the good work he does, and also to his boss, Sheriff Neil Elks, who's a big supporter of ours.
Right.
I'm not just saying that because the sheriff comes to most of our meetings.
Yes.
He always offers input, and again, very supportive of everything we do. So if it were not for Sheriff Elks' support, not only in hiring and retaining Kip, but in supporting in all we do, we couldn't do what we do.
Right.
We also get a lot of help from other law enforcement agencies such as Greenville PD, the Highway Patrol. And if you don't mind, I'd like to take a minute to, it's a fairly lengthy list, but I want to give a shout out to our board members if you don't mind.
Oh, sure, that's fine.
Not only to kind of give them a pat on the back, but also because it'll give you an idea of what a good cross-section of board members we have.
I know. I have the privilege of serving on that board now, and I have been just overwhelmed with the people that I've been able to meet and to see the different areas that they come from.
We've got a good one.
We really do.
And also to show that it represents, I think that Crime Stoppers is, I won't say unique, but it's special in the respect that it truly is a sort of a public-private partnership. We have a cross-section of community leaders, law enforcement, business leaders, and people that are retired from various professions.
right.
So if you don't, like I said, I'll take just a few minutes to kind of read these names off, and I'll give the affiliations of some of these people. Daniel Ouellette from New York Life, who was sent to us by the Winterville Chamber of Commerce. Richard Alsbrook, retired Greenville PD and now with North Carolina Wesleyan College. Julie Anderson, Kelly Andrews with the Pitt County Development Commission. Michael Best with Greenville Housing Authority joined us this year, thanks to the efforts of Scott. Brock Letchworth, Donnie Skinner, the Mayor Pro Tem of Ayden. Terry Williams, what do you know? I have Overton Residential Properties and Greenville Association of Realtors Liaison.
That's right.
All right. Don Young from Wimpy's, also retired Greenville firefighter. Mary Baker from ECU, Spence Evans from BB&T, Dave Jordan from WITN. I can mention WITN, I suppose, right?
Fine.
Myself, Danielle Kennedy from I Hear in Interbanks Media.
Right.
Danielle serves as our secretary, by the way. Scott Mullis, our vice chair with Greenville Utilities. David Chester, retired from Federal Bureau of Prisons. Bill Hanley from WAC Landscaping, also retired firefighter. Dennis Honeycutt from ECU, also retired State Bureau of Investigation, who serves as our treasurer, by the way. Billy Parker from Parker's Barbecue. Leonard Sawyer, also retired firefighter. When we have the meetings, the firefighters all sit together. Have to wait for an alarm to go off or something, I don't know. But there they are. Scott Shook from BB&T, Scott and Stringfellow. I mentioned Scott because Scott is our our former chair.
Right.
And were it not for Scott, we could not do the fundraising opportunity that Scott Mullis is going to talk about in a few minutes.
That's right.
Dan Thompson from the Little Bank, Kim Bostic with State Employees Credit Union, whose late husband Mike, I should say, the golf tournament that we put on each year is done in Mike's memory.
That's right.
Because Mike got me involved with Crime Stoppers 5 years ago. Kip Gaskins, of course, Doug Jackson, the mayor of Winterville. I'll talk more about Doug in a little bit. Randy Nichols, retired from Greenville PD. Bill Paramore with Suddenlink Communications. We also have liaisons from several law enforcement agencies on our board, which are very valuable assets to us. Sheriff Elks, Gary Weaver from Highway Patrol. We have two representatives from probation parole, Rodney Moore and Tiffany Vaughn, two former students of mine, by the way. The ECU PD Chief, Gerald Lewis, Kristen Hunter and Rob Williams from Greenville PD, and Thomas Forrest from Pitt Community College.
It's quite a board.
Yep.
It's quite a board. I don't think the public really realizes, because I didn't, even though we hear about Crime Stoppers for so long, since you all, especially with the telethon and with different things, that you're going to talk about, but I don't think they realize how large the board is and what it encompasses, and it's really amazing. So tell us a little bit more about how Crime Stoppers works.
All right. Suppose someone has information about a crime. What they would do is, I got to put the glasses back on for
That's
this.
okay.
There are three ways that they can contact Crime Stoppers to relay information about this crime. Now, very often, a detective or officer with a certain law enforcement agency, such as Greenville PD or Pitt County SO, maybe working with someone who has some information about a crime. But if a person has information, they can report it one of three ways. One is a phone number that you'll see plastered all over the place. It's 252-758-7777. And one thing people need to remember is that you will never be asked your name. And in fact, if you offer to give your name, you'll be cut off because the person taking the phone call will not want to know your name for a lot of reasons. So it's totally anonymous. In fact, if a person makes a phone call, it's not answered by somebody in Greenville, it's answered by a call center in Texas. A person can, I don't do this very often, but they can text PITT-GV, that's PITT-GV, and the information to 274-637, or they can visit the website and report there. The website, very simple, easy to remember, is crimestopper.org.
Okay.
Now, if a tip pans out and it leads to an arrest, the decision is made in cooperation with the officer who's working with the informant, as well as with Lieutenant Gaskins, as far as the quality of the tip and how much should be paid out. You'll see, and sometimes people get confused with this because a poster may say, reward up to a certain amount, such as $2,500 to $5,000. Well, the truth is most tips are not deemed to be worthy of that much money. However, we have paid out that much before for certain tips, certain types of crimes. But that's how the system works. The person is given a slip, a receipt, what have you, takes it to the bank, and again, everything is done totally anonymously.
So one of those types of crimes that might have been involved with the tip would have been maybe the big trial that we've just gotten through with
Absolutely.
the Hustle Mart murders.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit about that without giving information we shouldn't know?
Well, I don't know anything that you
Right.
That's not public knowledge, actually. But we do know that Crime Stoppers tips did lead to some of the arrests in that case.
That's right.
And again, that's fresh in everyone's mind because it's been in the Daily Reflector and all over the news lately because it was such a high-profile case and such a heinous case. But it is true that I think 5 or 6 tips were given.
Right. I think that it's my understanding that because of those tips, it just helped to solve it so much quicker. And that's what we want, to get the criminals off the streets as fast as possible so they don't keep committing the same crimes.
Especially in that case.
Yes.
Now, again, I'm kind of weighing in law enforcement territory here when I say this, but in that particular case, we had some people that really needed to be off the streets for a very long time.
That's exactly right.
There are
No doubt
also some
about
other
that.
cases, though, but there was a case some years back. I don't have the dates in front of me, but very, very bad case, a home invasion which resulted in the murder of a minister in the West Haven subdivision.
That's right.
And I can tell you this, that that case, it may have been solved eventually, but that case would have taken a long time to solve if it ever would have ever been solved. Had it not been for a Crime Stoppers tip.
Right.
Other cases, probably not quite as high profile. Those are 2 of the big ones there. But Lieutenant Gaskins informed me that a couple of weeks ago, a Crime Stoppers tip led to an arrest of some armed robbery suspects.
Right.
I think at Walmart parking lot. I'm not sure. A lot of cases, though, are not quite as high profile, not as well known, but nevertheless, Crime Stoppers does lead to arrests in these cases, such as probation violations or for minor crimes. Even for child support cases, looking for someone who owes child support, sometimes some information will lead to an arrest there. Even down to the school level. And let me talk about one thing Crime Stoppers does in relation to schools, if I may. Some years back, we had a fundraiser. I won't go into details about that, but we were asked to sell raffle tickets out by Sam's Club. I was partnered out there with Lieutenant Frank Knight from the ECU PD. And so we're supposed to sell raffle tickets. He looked at me, I looked at him. He says, "Do you know how to sell this stuff?" I said, "No, I'm not a salesman." He said, "Okay, let's just do the best we can." So what Lieutenant Knight did was, as people were coming out of Sam's Club, he asked to sell these raffle tickets for Crime Stoppers. And the thing he kept driving home that really appealed to people was that we help keep our schools safe.
Right.
Crime Stoppers works, Lieutenant Gaskins works very hard and hand in hand with SROs, school resource officers, to get students to deliver information to SROs that keeps the school safe, whether a student has drugs at school, or more importantly, perhaps weapons at school, whether a fight's about to break out, whether it's because of gang activity or something else. Sometimes we not only give information that leads to an arrest, but we also get information that may prevent a crime from happening.
That's right.
And that's even better.
That's
Even
exactly
down to
right.
pulling a fire alarm, which is technically a crime, I'm told.
Yeah.
But sometimes a little minor reward might be paid out for information relating to that. So
Exactly.
it goes from everything from the major crimes like the triple murders all the way down to the minor crimes that occur in schools.
I was actually quite surprised at the payouts, so to speak, that occur in our school system because of drugs and that sort of thing. I was glad that you seem to be getting a handle on it, or the law enforcement does, but it's still rather scary. I have grandchildren coming up, and I want them to be safe, and it's just a scary situation. And I don't know how many, what the statistics are of how many weapons have actually been found in school. We hear a lot of things on the news, but I don't know how detailed. Do you know, Scott, how detailed those reports are?
I do not, and I
Yeah.
just echo what Mark said about the school system and Kip's passion for raising money and trying to keep our schools safe. And
That's right.
That's something that's really dear to his heart, and he talks about quite often.
I know it is just super important. So, how many tips? Like, what kind of records do we have? How many tips been paid out? What's the last year that we have results from that you could kind of tell us how many tips would be paid out in a traditional year?
In preparation for this show, I asked Lieutenant Gaskins that very question. I wrote it down, and then I lost the list.
Oh, that's okay.
But I do remember I have
Just an idea.
Some idea. Yeah. The number of tips that have led to arrests for the past. He did it. He told me from the beginning of 2010 to right now is in the hundreds.
Wow.
Okay.
That's amazing.
And to tell you that to demonstrate this costs money, we have paid out over $50,000. Okay, to solve some of these crimes. And also it also helps us with efforts, going back to the schools. When Coach McNeil was here, I don't know if you recall, he wrote a book on anti-bullying.
That's right.
All right. Crime Stoppers purchased some copies of the books, gave them to the SROs, donated some to some of the school libraries, I think. Again, in an effort to prevent crime as well as catch it when it happens. So.
That is right. That is really right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about what Crime Stoppers is getting ready to do, some things that we've talked about. We know about the telethon. We're not sure we're going to bring that back, but it had been successful for raising money in the past, so that's certainly a possibility. But let's go ahead and talk about, I want to be sure we have enough time to talk about the golf tournament. So let's let Scott talk a little bit about that, and then we'll take our next break.
Absolutely. I think I was brought on here. If you know anything about me, I love golf. So I feel like Scott Shook, who recruited me, brought me with the golf tournament in mind. So
but I tapped his vice chair, though.
That's true. All right, so. That's true. But our 4th annual Mike Bostic Crime Stopper Memorial Golf Tournament will be held May 23rd at Brook Valley Country Club. Interesting thing about Brook Valley that particular weekend, if you like golf like I do, that's right. That follows one of their major tournaments out there, so the course will be in excellent condition.
Right.
It's an opportunity to play a course now that a lot of golfers can't play. I mean, it's a totally private club, and so it gives you a good opportunity to play a very challenging. I won't tell you what we call Brook Valley, but it's a very challenging golf course, and look forward to a great event. As always, we have the infamous go-kart or golf cart race between the sheriff and the chief of police and possibly maybe other law enforcement officials who may participate. So that's always a highlight event. The golf tournament, there is something called the Crimey Cup. So businesses can give money to sponsor a law enforcement team. So we actually get law enforcement teams out there, and they play for what they call the Crimey Cup. So that's the first event. Then we have lunch as well as the golf cart race. Hopefully nobody will get hurt. I understand in the past this has been very competitive. So that's something we're looking forward to. And then we have our golf tournament, which is a 4-person scramble. I hear Henry and Trent talking about playing golf all the time, so maybe they can be out there and show us what they have on the golf course. So
that would be great.
But anyway, it's named for Mike Bostic. I never met Mike. I just joined Crime Stoppers a few years ago. But understand he was very passionate, so he obviously left an indelible mark on the community and with Crime Stoppers especially. So in honor of him, we named this tournament for him. So at any rate, if someone wants to participate in the golf tournament, they can call me. My telephone number is 551-3312. I'll give that again, 551-3312. I'll be happy to send them information. If you're not a golfer, you can still participate. You can make a tax-deductible donation to Crime Stoppers. We'll send you a pledge form. And so we're just looking forward to raising money, and this is our highlight event this year, so trying to raise as much money as we can for Crime Stoppers.
That's right. Do we have a goal? Have we set a goal, or we just want to raise as much as we can?
We want to raise as much as we can, but I've kind of set a goal of $20,000 for this event, and I think it can be attainable, and we look forward to a good event.
Okay. Now, if someone wants to volunteer, do you need volunteers to help you with it?
Absolutely. We'll have a lot of things that need to be done during the tournament and
during that
day, so they can call me, and I'd be happy to plug them in. And we're always looking for help.
That sounds great. So do we have people already signed up?
We do.
We're just
we
getting
do have
started?
teams. We're just getting started, but we do have teams that have signed up. So usually we'll get 20 to 25 teams. That's kind of what we're shooting for. So it's a really good event. And again, if you're a golfer, I mean, it's an opportunity to play Brook Valley, which can't be undersold. That's a really good opportunity. The course is in great shape. I've played it a couple of times, and look forward to a really good event.
Well, that sounds great. Well, I'm looking forward to it too. I hope to be out there that day. I don't play golf. My family members, my guys do, but I don't. But I still hope to be able to help in some way that day, because what Crime Stoppers does is really remarkable, and we need them. We have to have them. So let's take another little break here, and we'll come back and wrap it up with some last-minute discussions on Crime Stoppers. Welcome back to Greenville Grit. We're having a great discussion today with Mark Jones and Scott Mullis from our Pitt Greenville Crime Stoppers. Very great information today, and a lot of things that I know that the public just doesn't know, the amount that Crime Stoppers really does to help our community and to keep us safe. But let's go back just for a few minutes about the golf tournament, because we didn't talk about what it costs.
The price.
Yeah,
the price
that's important.
is actually very affordable. You can put a team in for 4 players for $400.
Okay.
We have whole sponsorships available, and
Okay.
also some other sponsorships that someone, if they're interested, would be available to help us raise money. So
Okay.
a very affordable price.
Exactly.
Brook Valley has given us a good deal. So,
Okay.
Again, it's a great opportunity to play a good course. Hopefully the weather will cooperate, and we'll have a great event.
Maybe it won't be as windy as it was this past weekend.
I hope not.
That was a
The
nightmare.
wind doesn't bother me. It's the rain that bothers me.
I know, that's exactly right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Crime Stoppers and social media, because we're working really hard to have that presence now. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, first off, you can visit our website, and the website is very simple. It's crimestopper.org. It's
Okay.
www.crimestopper.org. And on the website, you'll find a link to the forms, whatnot, that Scott referenced
Okay.
about the golf tournament. So you can find that information about the golf tournament on the website. Now, also, you can follow us on Facebook or like us on Facebook, where you can also find information about the golf tournament that'll take you back to the website. But we also post just very little pieces of news, Crime Stoppers news on the website, and sometimes some stuff that's just funny too, or informative. And we are on Twitter now. Danielle Kennedy, our very fine secretary and Interbanks Media employee, has created a Twitter page for us.
Okay.
I don't do Twitter.
Either.
But
I have sent one tweet.
Yeah,
So
I know what it looks like, but that's about it. So we're on Facebook and Twitter and on the web now. So that's our social media presence, and we are working very hard to get our website updated. Brock Letchworth is being very helpful in that area.
That's right.
In fact, he has updated some things so far, and there are more updates to come. So
Okay, that's great. Any more comments you want to make about the social media? Just to send everybody to the website and to
Facebook's
Facebook.
a good, if you like our page, you get updates and various and sundry information about Crime Stoppers, and it's
Okay.
a good page to like. So
Okay,
I would just encourage everybody that does Facebook to like that page.
That would be great. Okay. Well, let's go back. We briefly talked a little bit about the history of Crime Stoppers, but let's elaborate a little bit about how it really got started and kind of bring us up to date on that.
well, you're asking a professor to briefly elaborate
I know.
on
I
something.
said briefly now. We don't have that much time.
All right. I'll try to be brief. And I'm looking at your little clock here, so maybe a rap on the hand may be necessary before I'm done. Crime Stoppers has its beginning in the 1970s, and I'll talk briefly about this and about Pitt Greenville Crime Stoppers. Greg McAleese is responsible for the founding of Crime Stoppers. Greg McAleese was a sports journalist in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is a bit ironic given the fact if you're a Breaking Bad fan, you know that that's where Breaking Bad is set. Never mind that. Was a sports journalist in New Mexico who decided to escape the stresses of journalism and go do police work. Now, I'm not sure what the thought process there was, but that's what he did. And so he got frustrated as a detective with not being able to solve crimes when he had a pretty good idea that people in the community had information, and all they had to do was put the info about the crime out there, and the tips would come. And sure enough, they did a reenactment. Now, everything that they had planned for the reenactment, it was an armed robbery murder, everything went wrong. The people who were supposed to participate got arrested that day. The car they were going to use for the reenactment got sold before they could do the reenactment. The thing was just a disaster. However, it did solve the crime and a few others. And so McAleese decided it'd be a good idea to get some public involvement, a good idea from the public involvement standpoint, as well as a way to get money to do this kind of thing. So that's how Crime Stoppers got started in New Mexico. Now, to Pitt County. Pitt Greenville Crime Stoppers was founded, I think, in 1983. in large measure thanks to the efforts of people like Doug Jackson, who I believe was its first coordinator. I know he served as coordinator for a long time while he was with the police department. I think I'm right there. Of course, he's mayor of Winterville now. But it's because of the efforts of people like Doug Jackson and the early pioneers in Crime Stoppers, people like Randy Nichols, that we have such a strong, firm Crime Stoppers organization right now. So it goes back 33 years now. So we've been around a long time, and we're one of the strongest Crime Stoppers chapters in the state. And Kip and all of us are very proud of that.
That is great. That is just, it really is phenomenal. Now, so tell us how many board members there are. I know you read them out, but you couldn't obviously count them. 30, 35
between
maybe?
25 and 30 board members, and then we have the law enforcement liaisons. We don't really count as technically as board members, although they function that way. And we're also trying to solicit more involvement with some of the municipal police departments around here, Bethel and Ayden and Farmville and so forth. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank our sponsors again, Greenville Toyota, Ribeye Steakhouse, Overton Residential Properties, and thank our guests. And we'll see you on Friday night at 6:30, Saturday morning at 9:30, and next week. Thank you very much.